This is
Welcome to Malibu's #1 pod.
the Malibu's only pod.
That's by default.
Out of a field of one.
I like it. I think it's a great idea. Can you see anything? Because of my weird background, it like blurs stuff out. But I have the agenda for this next meeting.
Oh my.
Yeah,
God.
we'll flow through it. Sometimes we get through all of it. Sometimes we don't.
Wow.
Haylynn, I don't understand. I don't understand why the agenda is so long. The meetings are usually short.
Yeah, that's usually a 1 hour meeting.
We
4 meetings packed into one, to be honest. And if you haven't heard the news, Breakist Music Festival tonight has been canceled.
Oh,
Fortunately. So I think that was because
What has been cancelled?
the Trancas.
the music tonight, just tonight, because the planning commission meeting was canceled there because of a lack of quorum. So they couldn't get their CUP in time, which is a bummer.
That's a shame. I thought we did things without permits here in Malibu.
yeah, you just rock out, no permit.
We're waiting on you,
Probably a
Danny.
no comment thing. for you.
We're waiting on you, Danny, to break ground. We'll have press and everything. So who went surfing the tsunami? Anybody?
Louis?
The 1 foot
That was
tsunami?
12:40 a.m., wasn't it?
My daughter was like, "We're staying up, right, Mom? And we're gonna see it happen." I'm like, "No, it's 1 a.m. and it's pitch dark and nothing's gonna happen."
Yeah, at 9 when they said Hawaii was seeing 3 foot, I said, okay, there's probably not going to be much action here. Let's go to bed.
Very underwhelming.
I saw Marianne that night at a Parks and Rec meeting, and I go, "Well, you're mayor now, so maybe this is your disaster." No, I'm just glad it didn't happen for all of us.
Yeah, I saw Kamchatka had waves of 3 to 4 meters, 9 to 12 feet, and I was like, how much of that is going to be left after it has crossed the Pacific? Probably not much.
Not much. And then I think it dissipates because we have the islands here.
Yeah, and Point Conception too, right? That blocks area wind.
So I think if we had an earthquake between here and there, we would be in trouble. But anything, and I don't want to say that and people be like, "Well, Haylynn said."
Don't jinx us. How about that?
I know, and knock on wood.
A lot of folks actually, I think, may or may not know, you got sworn in the day before.
The night
All
of
hell, the night off.
So yeah, the night of December 5th or 4th or 9th, December 9th, I was sworn in. I had friends and family flying from New York. And I took the oath. My daughter read me in. It was kind of a comedy sketch. And then I sat up there and it was Joe Tony that said, "Oh, everybody, we might have a power outage due to high winds, so this might be cut short." And I was like, okay, of course. We had a little after party in the multi-purpose room. And at that point, I think Point Doom had gone, the electricity went off. And so people were leaving. I went home. By the time I got home and took off my party dress, Franklin Fire, I think, had started. And I was basically like, oh my goodness, what did I do to my life? Now I have to rebuild. Like I thought it was gonna be like Woolsey. I went straight to that. And I was with my husband and we were watching like all of those live watch cams. I hadn't even known about watch duty at that point. I didn't know my zone evacuation. Anyway, we stayed up all night and in the morning at 6 a.m. I get a call and it was this lady and she goes, "Welcome to Malibu City Council. This is your supervisor, Lindsay Horvath." And I was like, "Who?" So she was like, "I'll meet you at Zuma." And I was like, okay. And I got on my clothes and I hadn't slept. And I went down to the emergency operations center. She was there. And it was amazing, actually. The response was, I was like, the whole time, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I got sworn in. It was like the best thing ever. We've got planes. We've got firemen. Everything's out. Success, check. But anyway, then a month later, I was like, well, it wasn't Woolsey, dodged that bullet. And then January 7th happened. And it went on for days and days and days and days and days. And a lot of my, and here we are.
That's crazy. That was insane. When was
It's still going.
for the rest of you guys? When did you guys drive back in? Like I snuck back in the next morning, and the flames were still going at some spots.
I evacuated like 3 or 4 times because I have horses. My husband stays. I was
looking for the picture I took the day I went back, and it was like January 27th, I think.
Well, that's when the sky had cleared by then.
I was there for
the sky cleared,
Haylynn's.
but
There was actually a fire still smoldering on my neighbor's lot. And as I was standing there taking it all in, fire engine pulled up, 4 firemen came out, and it took them about 20 minutes to put out that little smoldering fire that had been buried in debris.
Yeah, I mean, I think by 6 or 7 that evening, we started getting text messages from folks either that had stayed or from, fire chiefs and stuff, is don't have any hopes left. Don't have any hopes left. It's wind activity and fire like none ever seen before. It's all gone. And by 10:40 at night, I got a text message from a speculator that wanted to buy my house at Coastline for $400,000. And that's when I told my wife that I think one of ours went down. And the next morning I called Arno actually, and he said, "Man, you're one lucky SOB. You're the only one standing on the street. You're the only one standing on the street."
That was my exact words. Those were my exact words, right?
Those words are etched in my brain forever. Well, a little bit of breaking news this week, right? We saw white smoke, new city manager announcement. Take us into the conclave, Haylynn, to the extent you can.
Sure.
The process. I mean, it's obviously a massive decision. We look at you guys as the board for a public company, and then you're electing your CEO. So probably as substantive a decision as can happen. Walk us through it.
Sure. Well, so we hired a firm, Peckham McKinney, who's regionally and nationally known and trusted. And we did that research. So we all agreed on doing it that way. They took it was maybe 4 or 5 months, and they were very organized. And then they would come back with binders of candidates, but really an ad hoc dealt with it. So I and the 3 other council members that were not on the ad hoc really didn't do much as far as the intermediary stuff. And then when they felt ready, they proposed a few of the candidates that were left after they did their due diligence. It's a very long process. I've learned that city government is a very strange, niche kind of place that I never thought I would ever end up. There's like committees and councils and city manager conferences, and there's a whole world, and it's not an easy job. It takes a certain type of person, in my opinion, to be able to balance all. I feel like there's 3 things that they have: the residents, the staff, and then the council, who is ultimately their boss. The council only has 3 jobs. Oh, well, it's setting policy, but other than that, it's hiring and firing, city manager, city treasurer, and the city attorney. Other than that, we don't get involved in the day-to-day stuff. So this person really has to have adequate people skills. They have to be able to delegate, but not be too controlling, right? They can't micromanage. So you have all these directors. It's a tough. I learned a lot. I've watched a lot of city council meetings in other cities. So I do a lot of like my own research on my own time, see how city managers interact with their council. And there are cities way weirder and crazier than we are, with nastier gadflies. We have very big problems here. And then you start thinking, well, everybody thinks that they have big problems, but we have like life or death problems. We don't have like we have economic development problems, but like that's not life or death. We have, are we going to rebuild and reburn? are we going to have another 4 girls dying on PCH? So you have to have a city manager that has the backbone and the chutzpah and the, that kind of drive to tackle these. And I know that residents want somebody that lives in the city, and that's hard to come by because we're a city now of like not a lot of residents.
11,000, right?
Wait, how
So you were happy with the field?
Yes,
You felt like you had enough number of candidates to look at?
I was actually pleasantly surprised that we had the applicants that we did, because I wasn't sure how it was going to go. People they can't afford to live here and move their family here. City council is prepared to like offer a moving bonus. But what did you say, Darren?
11,000 citizens in Malibu.
Huh?
That's 11,000.
There's not 1,000.
As of 2020 census, I think we're a lot less now.
So I actually have the numbers, but I'd have to get up.
It's like 7 or 8.
It's even lower.
So what is just behind the scenes then? Do you guys spar a lot in council? Like, are there multiple different views? Are you generally aligned? I mean, just walk us through some of that.
For a decision as important as this?
It wasn't. It's like dating. Unfortunately, you're dating with 5 people. It's like, who do we want to see enter the family, right? Like, who's going to be our sister wife? It's a strange situation.
And does this happen in closed session? Is that when the actual debate happens?
All of this stuff. So if you see like Ante likes to post like they're going into closed session again. Ooh. And there's stuff that like I would have no idea about that's legal. And there's human resources, like HR is huge. And city employees have an incredible amount, or government employees have an incredible amount of protections.
Does staff get a vote in this, or are you guys representing staff and residents in the decision?
We are supposed to represent staff and residents, and I believe that staff should have a say, at least the directors, because they are integral part of this whole thing, the machine that makes us Malibu, and they have to work with this person, and that's why having Abe there, I thought was going to be very like helpful to have like a person being able to tell us, how's it going back there? How are those sausages coming along?
Haylynn, what are going to be some of the first jobs for the new city manager in terms of what we're going through, the rebuild? What are some of the big tasks ahead of her?
It's big. I was on the Zoom this morning, and I believe that when we talked about that, like, I think getting to know everything. I would love to see her shadow for a little bit. Like Richard already knows some things. Candace can help her. You guys can help her. Making sure she's open to having this dialogue that's a two-way dialogue so that she can do the tour like Abe said this morning. It's hard to step into Malibu. Like, if you don't know all the players and the history, I had to learn it myself. But I had this sort of like, I have the feeling she has the same drive to do it, but like, start watching meetings, start coming to meetings, start meeting with people. Even Pepperdine, like that's what I did when I campaigned, and then I got elected, and I just was like meeting. And then I know where the pieces fit, and I'm still learning. But I think for her, it's going to be, I don't want her to come in like a bull in a china shop, and I didn't want to do that coming into council. I still think that I'm holding back a bit because I'm, 7 months in and we had the fire. My priorities have shifted to talking about executive orders and codes and CEQA. So she just has to take some really good time to get to know the processes, but I think she's able to multitask. So it's not just one thing. Some people are better multitaskers where they can do multiple things at once. You can get to know the Big Rock people and at the same time, look at the trenching, look at the SCEs, set up a meeting with the fire chief, go up there and, instead of, sometimes these meetings go weeks and weeks in between. Our next meeting is August 11th.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that.
That's banana.
It's so hard to learn when there's these big gaps of time between the discourse. 'Cause we were hoping with Candace we would have more of an open dialogue between meetings. Abe did have some meetings with her, but I don't think the community did. So with this new city manager, we're probably all hoping that she does have the time to engage with the community and keep the conversations moving and alive in these gaps between city council meetings.
Like community engagement, residents are, need to have feedback, need to have discourse, need to have communication. It's not like somebody sits up in their ivory castle and doesn't come down. What we liked, there's actually a meeting on somebody who comes and shakes the people's hands. How are you doing, Darren? How are you doing, Danny? Oh, good to see you, Arno. It goes a very long way. It's not, instead of you come in, you sit at the podium, you open up your book and you're writing notes the whole time. So it's these things and it's like, hey, Abe, listen, let's get a meeting on the books. Let's do this. I think that she's that person. I worry though that it'll be overwhelming for a little while and residents might get frustrated. I hope that you guys feel prioritized. I can't promise that. Luckily, we have Richard, and I hear from you. He's been helpful. But
Yeah, no,
these
he's
people
been
are
great.
filling the shoes of 4 executive people. We have to remember, I believe that we have 2 other openings that are in the executive leadership position. So those are actual bodies with brains that we're lacking.
I mean, I'd speak for all of us. We will go the extra mile to not overwhelm her, but make ourselves available to her to try and ease her transition into the knowledge of, the Malibu community.
Well, I think the key part of it is, some of it just has to be felt and understood. I mean, before I was as involved, I didn't have a full appreciation. And Haylynn, you laid it out beautifully in your op-ed last week. I'm going to read the line, that you wrote right at the end. It's a little bit of a Mona Lisa line to me. It can be read and interpreted many different ways. So let's read it out. You're saying the true character of Malibu isn't in its square footage, but it's in its people, its natural beauty, it's the spirits. It's the little league games, the creative shops, the neighbors who stop to wave. That's what we risk losing. Say more. What were you going after?
Oh, I have just thinking about that because that's what I think about all day long. I think it's weird. I just eat, sleep, and breathe Malibu. And I went with my brother Reese just today for lunch to Howdy's. I saw Ian Rovins. I said hello. I had lunch. There were people out. I knew, and not just because I'm a council member. It's just that people know people here. You don't get that feeling in other places. We risk to lose. And I was talking to my brother about this. Who are we going to be? I actually have another op-ed. So what I do is I write them out and then I kind of like agonize over them, but it's a follow-up to the last one. And, if you are from Silicon Valley and you're like, I'm going to buy a house in Malibu and it's your 3rd or 4th house. And we all know this because we live here. We know this. You fly into Camarillo, you get your driver down to your house. You have a private chef. You don't go to Howdy's. You got you got your private trainer, you got your gym. You don't go to Malibu Fitness. You don't see Danny pumping iron that day. There's no, okay. So there's no community in that. Those people don't donate to the community. They don't donate their time. They don't grow old here. They don't donate their money here. So I hear, oh, we're going to have these people endow the skate park and we're going to endow the arts commission. And I go, for people to do that, for people to want to have their, put money into infrastructure here, they have to have incentive to do it. They have to want to raise their children here. They want to grow old here. They want to see a community that treats their elderly with dignity. Because, hey, I want to grow old here. I want to know what's down the pike for me. Right? I want to invest your life somewhere. It is a choice that you have to make. I can go over to Oak Park, have my kids in a great school, pay half the price, drive over the hill, spend the day at the beach, and drive home, feel safe, have sidewalks if that's what you like, because I know people don't like sidewalks. But I might have less homeless. My lunch will be half the price. So what are we doing to attract the people to come here that aren't those people from Silicon Valley that don't leave their their third home. Are those people bad? No. I have friends that are those people. I love those people. I think they're great. But it's, if you're talking about the square footage thing and NIMBYism, which I don't know if that's what you were getting at with the interpretation. I actually wasn't talking about like TDSF. I was more talking about a philosophical overarching direction. I've never had a vision, like there's no visioning at the city. We're literally just treading water. Oh my God, it's an appeal. I got to get to the appeal. I got to learn about the appeal. I've got to talk to the appellants. I mean, listen, TDSF, if you buy a plot of land and you want to build on it and you're within your codes and you want to have an 11,000 square foot house, okay. If you're not breaking laws, things of that, if I believe in being a good neighbor, you don't want to be a jerk. You got to live next to that person.
Hey, Haylynn, you also wrote about the neighborhood character on one of your. So, how does that marry this thought of TDSF and codes and clean sheet? And then I have a follow-up question, which is, what do you prefer, the mission and vision statement of Malibu, or help expedite the rebuild process and interpret the nuisance order a bit more liberally? I know that is asking you who you prefer, mom or dad, but I think we are at this crusade right now.
Well, I think that the neighborhood character thing goes into everything. When I first, my husband's from here. I hear all about the 70s and how you could ride horses, and I have horses. And so it's like, that's kind of beaten in my mind. I think this next op-ed that I wrote is all about the mission and vision statement and actually unpacking the words, because it's a beautiful sentiment that I personally love. I think there's a little rebellion in it. It feels a little defiant. We are custodians of the area. I just don't know if that means that we should be nasty to each other. And you guys lost your homes. Because of something that was done to you, not because of something you did. I don't believe that you should be penalized for that. I think that that the governor's executive orders, gave us some leeway. We should take advantage of it, which we are. And I don't think that they're, yeah.
Try to.
We're trying to. I think that people are afraid of, there's a lot of fear.
Staff, you mean, or people?
Yeah. Well, I think staff. I think, I'm trying to still figure out the whole staff thing and how they come up with things. Because it's hard for me to put myself in that place because I've never been a planner or a builder, or I work in the city. I kind of am like, after this is done, maybe I want to get a job in the city because I'm intrigued by that side of the fence. They're like afraid. You hear these things. They're afraid to make a mistake because somebody's going to yell at them. So I'm like, I'm sure residents have been mean to them in the past. I'm sure that when people that move here and they buy a $2 million piece of land and they hope to build on it and they hear no often. I think there's just a lot of fear of making mistakes, maybe of doing the wrong thing, of.
I mean, I'll add one to that in my interactions with the city. It's almost, they're unclear at times of what behavior is rewarded or encouraged even, right? I mean, on one hand, if they're being somewhat lenient to a architect or a builder, there'll be 20 appeals on it. Yeah. For which they'll be kind of, dragged through the mud. And then at the other end of it, we are asking for leniency in the interpretations. And it's at some level, it's almost an impossibility with the same people, the same group of people, and even the same group of constituents. There are residents that are, demanding leniency on one hand and demanding toughness on the other hand, which I just don't understand how that's even physically and psychologically
Plenty of
possible.
split personalities you can get. And, the city is going through that. And if I were in their shoes, in the city staff shoes, I would be very confused as to where my priorities should lie. Because, yeah, they're getting screamed at by appellants who are pushing against mansions, like MTC coming in and bombarding them with, their tirades over and over, forcing them to put together staff reports for the planning commission hearings. And then you got people cajoling them and pleading with them to, relax some of these rules tied to rebuilding. And what are they going to do? They're probably just like stuck, frozen in the headlights. They don't know which step to take because everyone they take is going to have some sort of pushback.
Well, but yeah,
as I'm hearing that, I'm actually thinking, are staffers prepared for handling those kind of conflicts? Because they are in the middle of massive conflicts. They're exposed to massive, I call them expressions of frustration. And is there any kind of training provided for them? Because they cannot serve everybody. They have to make a decision that will piss off someone.
Right.
Do they have training?
But if it's written in the code that has been voted, and we all had the chance to complain about code clearly interpreted, that doesn't allow for interpretation depending on who is reading it, that protects them.
At
That's
some
my
level,
opinion.
I'll tell you my thoughts on the interpretation part of it. And I was on the other side of this almost like a couple months back even. Now that I've had the benefit of engaging with city staff, quite heavily for the last couple of months, my view on that has shifted a little bit. And I'll explain myself. In some cases, having very rigid criteria would mean that would disallow the leeway we need for some scenarios. In other words, if you're going to try to capture 99% or more of the scenarios and then draw a line in a particular criteria, then, well, it has got to be by definition pretty tough, right? So at some level of gray zone, we should learn to embrace. Now, the problem is that interpretation is happening with only a couple of people. There aren't that many people that can interpret the gray zone and give you a decision. That's where it's falling apart. But I don't think we should really, that's just my opinion anyway, we should really go after trying to get the gray zone away, because I think that can actually help the residents quite a bit. What I do think needs to happen is more folks within staff need to be able to make those interpretive calls, and not everything needs to be routed to one or two people.
I think that the key for a good code and as a good system, I like to consider myself more a system designer than an architect. I say that sometimes. So good systems are the ones that have clear established rules and a clear established mechanism to break those rules. With the code, I understand what you're saying, Abe. There's things that probably need some leeway, but that cannot be everything, because it's the opposite of a streamlining. If we leave everything to interpretation, is what the staff is complaining about. They have to sit one by one with every single resident and interpret everyone one by one. We cannot have that.
There may be a very rigid set of very clear black and white set of rules, but they may be so strenuous and so stringent that we'd much rather have what we have right now, as opposed to, sort of building that staff where indeed, the problem that you cite is a real one, which is, you can't build 1,000 homes meeting everybody one-on-one. Well, not if you have, 50 people that are capable of doing that. Then you can meet with 20 rebuilders a day.
And you have to staff up and give the staff that authority to make those interpretations. What is the intent of the code in this instance? I mean, that is what, AHJs do. I think Malibu just needs to either bring in outside consultants for a temporary basis, or staff up somehow and teach quickly and give people the freedom to make mistakes, because they're going to, right? I mean, I'm in this world. I was thrown out into it. I did make mistakes. It cost some clients money. It saved some clients money, but that's how you learn. I mean, there's really no way around the learning process, and the Malibu staff has to learn.
Like, the code is so dense and intricate that it's impossible to teach 50 staff and to allow them to make the right choices without improving the code. It is impossible. We only have
route, right? Bring in peer reviewers from outside other jurisdictions. They already know the building code. And just
one thing is building code. I understand, but what Abe is saying, right? To have the knowledge to be able to interpret the gray zones, we only have Tyler for that. So how do we move? How do we clone Tyler here, right? The way I see it, and I know that Bruce doesn't like when we say this, that residents are the clients, right? I am of the opinion that the client is always right. So if a client wants to complain, sometimes they have to complain. So the city provides a service which is reviewing permits. So we have to have empathy with the residents. They lost their home. They didn't choose to go through this. They don't understand. So we need to make it as easy as possible to them. But I agree,
No,
like
but that's
disrespect
where the
never.
comment comes in with the pigs, hogs, and golden retrievers, right?
What's
I
that?
mean, some residents can be hogs, and hogs will be slaughtered, whatever. So,
I know, believe me, I deal with all of them too, and it's not nice to tell them, sorry, you thought that you could do plus 10%, but you cannot. It's like, what?
I think
Believe me.
one of the problems, one of the things that frustrates me about Malibu's structure of government is we don't have a singular executive who can give direction. We do have the city manager, and I hope that we see some of that coming, but it's not only on the city manager. So in LA, Karen Bass can say via executive order and otherwise, guys, we're going to go faster. And she can do it in a day. It can be written in a day. It can be published. You, Haylynn, and Bruce, and you guys can talk at council meetings every 2 weeks. You can write your wonderful op-eds. The process is so slow to get big changes done. And I think the staff could use encouragement and direction and support to go faster and to push more through.
I think that you're right. I think that I also agree with Louis. We are in a customer service industry. Like I don't think you're my customer, but in some ways I am not your boss. You're my boss in some ways, but that doesn't mean you get to mistreat me. And that doesn't mean that you get to, there's a line, right? So even in customer service, I was a restaurant owner. I was a school owner. Those were my customers, but there's always a line. And dealing with parents of first children is brutal, right? That when you see that they have their second child, they're totally different parents. They're like, fine, they'll eat the dirt. It's okay. I'm fine. But the first time parents are like, they can't eat the dirt. Just watch them and make sure that they don't eat the dirt. So it's like there are lines, and I think that respect is always needed. But I think that there's a way in which the staff and the residents need to commingle. And I think that when the public speaks at the dais is my favorite part of the meeting. Everything else feels like theater to me. Everything else feels like just like we could be doing more in a different setting. So what you might be talking about, Danny, is a strong mayor type of government. And the city became a city in 91, and we've always been a council government, city manager form. I don't know if we've ever had a strong city manager that the residents all loved. I don't even know if that's possible, but we've only known this structure. And if that's me trying to sell you on a new structure.
No, I think it works in peacetime. That's what I've been told.
It's almost like a dictator. Like you kind of need a benevolent dictator just for this moment in time to just go boom, 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 boom. Let's get it done. Let's go back to city council and pretend like every 2 meetings a month is going to help the city. Right now, I'm looking at like this 600-page addenda report, which is like 4 meetings condensed into one, because we can't get through it. It's just inhumanly impossible for us to meet every 2 weeks and expect that we're going to have like some big progress. Oh, my battery's dying. I'm going to go plug it in. But so I've thought about that too. I don't know who would be a good mayor in this city, because you have to have like a huge pool of residents to pull somebody from. And then you have to put it on a ballot, and then they have to run, and it's this whole thing,
But barring that,
yeah,
I think our structure as it is, our system of government could be a lot more effective if obviously it could work faster. And one practical way to do that, in my mind, would be to meet more often.
But that comes with consequence. Not to cut you off, because
I want to hear about them, but obviously City of LA can meet 3 times a week. They're well compensated council members, and also they have large staff, so they can do that. But City of Burbank's smaller, they can meet once a week. To me, it seems like the same amount of staff work. I don't know how council members would feel to meet every week for 3 hours instead of every 2 weeks for 5 to 6 to 7 hours.
I don't think it's from city council's side. I think I know I would be happy. I meet with people all day long.
Yeah.
Every day, 7 days a week. I would be much happier to do something that's more productive, which is policy setting to get through this stuff, right? I thought about this over and over. I've asked the question so many times, and it always comes down to staff's time. That setting these agendas are a huge amount of work, and finding the staff to do that plus then to implement. And that's where I'm kind of like, hire a whole another bunch of staff. Let's just go through, let's go through some of our reserves. And then the next question is, well, where do these people come from? And then to Lewis's point is they have to learn. We had on the agenda 2 weeks ago, which we never got to, which upset me, which was how to deal with meetings. Let's add a meeting. Let's change the meeting time. Let's renegotiate the meetings with the Zooms. We never got to that, right? By the time we vote on that and it actually becomes implemented, will be another 8 months.
So we shared some frustrations last week that you guys had that great meeting a week or so ago for the 15 items.
Yeah.
15 items.
Yeah.
You seem to nail one of them, but it was only one. And we ran out of time. And then the next meeting is scheduled for over a month later. It's a problem. That's
the problem.
These are urgent.
This is unsustainable. I couldn't agree with you more. And I know that my council agrees with you. I think. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know that this doesn't make sense. Yeah, this next meeting, we have like 30 agenda items on it. It's inhumanely, it's not possible. And then to go through rebuilding, it's like we need two cities. We need a whole nother city council for you guys. And we need just like a city council for us. We need, Doug says it over and over and over again, which is the tale of two cities. But it's true. We have one staff and one council dealing with too many issues. And I don't know how to get out from under it. I have to be totally honest. I would meet every day. Bruce and I have said, we have to agendize it for the Brown Act, which is something that annoys me, which but I said, put up a YouTube phone. Like, put our phone. There's 5 of us right now. Open it up to the public. We don't need Kelsey, but you do, because it's city government. You need the city. You needed the city clerk, then you need the attorney, and then you need the public record, and then it has to be open. I wanted to just have a Zoom meeting like this where I'm like, Steve, Doug, Bruce, Marianne, what are we going to do? When we had the tsunami that night, the thing was like, I can't just call up my council members like, okay, guys, what's the plan? How are we going to evacuate for a tsunami? I had to be like, well, I guess you'll be my Brown Act buddy. If you hear anything, let me know. It's so stupid.
Like an emergency scenario, like protocol that changes that. Like if a tsunami is really hitting, can't you call everybody and be like, well, EOC protocol takes place. We actually can all talk.
To be fair, the city manager is in place, and she can do that with her staff. That's that's the system working correctly.
So it's like the game of telephone, right? So to think about the amount of work she has to do, or Joe Tony had to do, he had to call all of us separately to tell all of us the same exact information. So yes, Danny, you're right. It gets filtered through the city manager and then up, I guess, to the 5 council. But that's like, hey, Abe, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Arno, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is not a good use of your time. The wave is here.
I want to say one thing, Haylynn. I really appreciate that you said you feel like you're treading water all the time.
Yeah.
Because that's a perspective that I know I don't keep in mind enough. When we think, why isn't the council doing this? Why isn't the city staff doing this? And you guys are just trying to keep afloat. So that's helpful to hear. But it is a problem, I think, that you guys don't have the time to think about the big picture things, like you write about in your article. And I really believe it's been talked about. This isn't a new idea, but that if the permits don't start getting issued, Malibu is going to fundamentally change. I mean, we talked about it in February, but it's really happening. And I can tell you from the offers that I am getting, the people who are going to live on the beaches, and again, like you said, nothing against them, nothing against the private chef people, but they're not going to be supporting the businesses. They're not going to be in the schools. And, we have a very strong preservationist group in Malibu. And what's causing so many problems is these huge houses going up in Malibu Park, right? But that wouldn't have happened if people were incentivized to rebuild their houses plus 10%, plus 15%, something reasonable. And if you don't allow that to happen, and this isn't you, this isn't Bruce, this isn't the council, this is us collectively, then you're going to create a Malibu that you don't want. We all are.
It's unintended consequences. The problem is that we are setting them up ourselves. And the problem is, I don't know if we know how we need to not do that. We need to have more meetings. First of all, that is
speed up. That's it, I think.
Say it again.
Speed up. And is there a way to get a time limit on council members when they're talking, like 6 minutes apiece per item?
I actually did not get consensus for that. In my first meeting, I went out on a limb and I said, listen, if the public gets 3 minutes, then I think we should get 3 minutes. And I can actually
twice as long, right? But something. Just
fine, 6 minutes.
Darren is in a nice mood this afternoon.
I disagree with this one because council members like Haylynn are so hamstrung by the Brown Act that they can only deliberate in the moment, and difficult decisions sometimes need a lot of deliberation. So,
and to your point, both of you, when I first got on, I didn't realize how true that is, Danny. And now I'm like, oh, that's what Steve thinks. Oh, Doug is not into that. I had no idea. So this whole thing is an unintended consequence of 6-hour meetings, because I'm kind of like, go on, Marianne. I really had no idea you were feeling this way.
Right. But also, nobody's at their best 6 hours into those late night meetings.
No.
Staff isn't, you guys aren't. Nobody's thinking efficiently or.
And also these agendas. So I got this agenda. Oh my God, you guys, it's so frustrating. The appeal from the last meeting, the amount of work that I did on the wetlands appeal personally. I watched the environmental review board. I met with the applicant. I met with the appellant. I met with Tyler. I met with Courtney. I can't remember any of it. From now, I have to go back into all of my notes. I have to rewatch things. They got pushed. It got delayed. And I'm thinking, this is unsustainable, especially, how about the TUPs? Trancas thing, I think, got canceled tonight because they canceled the meeting for the TUPs. That's not their fault. They're suffering because of something that we are not doing. It was, I guess, a quorum issue, but that's not their fault. I hope that they didn't lose money. Like, that's heartbreaking.
I mean, there's a band that was expected to be
They called
paid.
me.
There are going to be residents that are going to show up and go like, was there no music tonight? They're going to make their own party. There are going to be so many people just going there, expecting it, and then just hanging out there. So
many issues.
They didn't even prevent what they were supposed to vote on. It's completely ridiculous.
Okay, how about this? How about this? Those TUPs needed to happen before July 4th. Those businesses like Rafi Lounge or, Surf, maybe not Surf Canyon, but some of these businesses, Scotts Market, they wanted to have July 4th events. We didn't vote on it until it was like July 11th. July 4th came and it went. So it's like, I can come up with a million of these very frustrating, bang your head up against the wall issues, but that doesn't help. What helps is like, let's find solutions and then actually do it, not just talk and talk and talk about everything. But we need to have 2 meetings, in my opinion. Not 2 meetings a month, but like 2 meetings. I would love 2 meetings a week just to get out from under all of this And
I mean,
then
it's a disaster. It requires special measures, and 2 meetings a week doesn't sound too crazy for
and
them.
I know this has been explored before, but a disaster doesn't give any leeway on the Brown Act. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys have asked a question, try to probe that, but
I
that
asked.
seems like a real handicap. My
It's
goodness.
a handicap. And I asked the governor, like, I'm not lying. And he's been put me in touch with his legal attorney, like the lawyer for them. And I said, this is crazy that I can't, I'm being strangled by red tape. We're in a disaster. It might have been January 28th at that point. And he said, write legislation. I said, listen, I don't want to suspend it forever. There is corruption. I love the public. I love transparency. But like in a disaster only, COVID, earthquake, tsunami, give us some time to get our bearings here.
I wonder if there could be a situation where there is the Monday meeting where you vote on things. And then every week there's also, you guys call them workshops, other cities call them study sessions.
That's right.
There's no voting, but it can be informal.
Well, you know what those cities do? They do the 2 hour, like Laguna Beach does a 2 hour study session before they vote on stuff. So let's say the meeting starts at 5, they get together at 3, they get the staff there, we go through the presentations, we get to think about it, we talk about it, the public, it's fine, you come if you want, you come, don't come, you don't want, then the meeting starts. I would love that.
Sounds smart.
Because then you get that Bruce time and that Marianne time.
That's right.
Your brain can work. And by the way, it's earlier in the day, so your brain's working better. And then you guys can vote more expeditiously.
Well, then there's also, I have so many notes about this. Then there's also the idea of, because public works and they should have their chance to always speak. And so so other cities have like a 9 a.m. meeting, a Tuesday 9:30 meeting, but then they also have another meeting that it's like the public comes, you can come to the 9:30 meeting, of course, but if you don't get your chance there, you got another chance later in the week. I just think that there's ways that we can play with this that we haven't had the opportunity to vote on. Like, yes, 2 meetings a week. Let's get out from underneath this pile of problems, and start making a dent in where we're going. We need to have these workshops with voting capabilities at the end of them, and we just need to keep doing them. 1 a week.
I want to add to that. I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on, remember the workshops with Alexis? She was the city deputy, right? And so she was kind of the mic and controlling who speaks. Okay, now we change topics. Would you be in favor of having this concept? Let's say Richard is the one who's has a clock and says, okay, next 10 minutes, we talk about item number 1. All of you have 1 minute to say your thoughts, ask questions to the staff, but we have to vote in 10 minutes. Ready? Go. Will you be open to something?
I mean, I'm open to thinking about it. Yeah, I think what happens is I like to break things down like Bruce is funny because he thinks differently than I think. And I told him this, I'm like, he's cerebral, he thinks very linear, and we don't all think that way. And so I need a little bit more time to like discuss, nuance, visualize. So yeah, that might be a great way of doing it, but be able to take chunks, little chunks, and get through the document together, all together, voting at that moment. So like you're saying, after 10 minutes, we've all discussed it, we've come up with something, then we vote. That sounds like a great idea.
I got another executive order idea to make the Monday night council meetings a heck of a lot more palatable. How about serving some wine and hard liquor? I think
coffee
at the dais.
Other espresso martinis.
We don't have coffee.
I think we need to petition for that, guys. That's our next
espresso martinis.
But coffee would be a good start, Haylynn, for sure.
I just can't believe there's not a carafe up at the dais. I bring it, Bruce brings a thermos.
Bruce brings his own, which it seems like
we have water issues.
Bruce keeps going at it at 11:30 at night. There's still stuff coming out of Bruce's little coffee cup there. That's incredible. Well, Haylynn, it was fantastic having you. Always appreciate your candor, and you know that we enjoy watching you in action and working for us. So thank you for that. And guys, any last thoughts before we wrap here?
I'm really happy I voted for you, Haylynn. You've had a tremendous effect on the council. So that was probably the only vote I've put forth in any election that's, rang true as the right decision. So thank you for your presence.
Wow. I'm honored. Honestly, I can't even believe that I'm able to walk this traumatic time with you guys. I really hope that I'm able to. I'm not always going to be. I don't think you're always going to be stoked with me because it's impossible. But just know that I'm always just trying, and you can always call me and give me your point of view, and I'm always going to think of that. And I really appreciate it.
One thing I really appreciate about you, Haylynn, is that you're so transparent. Your thought process is so transparent. I don't ever worry that you have hidden agendas or that the wheels are turning secretly in your head. I think that is so refreshing. And like you said, you might not always vote the way every single one of us wants, but I think we're going to know why you voted the way you voted, which is pretty great.
Oh man, you guys I just came out to see if my brother could hear all of this so he could be proud of me. But he's not here.
You can watch
Well, that's another
podcast.
viewer of the pod.
That's a good point. I'm really glad that you guys are doing this. I think a pod and chilling is a great idea for Malibu. Before I was elected, I was really thinking a podcast was necessary. I'm sad that it has to be around fires and rebuilding, but maybe this is a reason and community comes together and something comes of that. So
I just want to add, you're a great surfer, so I think that you're well fit to be a Malibu council member.
Well, thank you. Coming from you, I feel that is a high compliment. You're an awesome surfer too. I hope that we could surf again when there's
waves on Sunday. So
on the next tsunami, guys, we'll watch out. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Haylynn. Thanks, everybody.